What's going on, everyone? Cash Creatures here. And today we're going to be taking a look at some sealed products that look like a good buying opportunity based on the current supply and demand, and getting a sense of what stage we're at in the market. So let's get right into it. First, we have the Surging Sparks Booster Box. So in the past month, we're up about 7.5% on the Surging Sparks Booster Box. And it looks like we're finally ready to break out of the current range that we've been trading in between like $220 to $300, almost going back over a year ago at this point in time. And this box does look like it's primed to make a move above $300 fairly soon. We have been sitting at over 1,000 supply on TCG Player for quite a while, but as of recently, we've kind of cut into that supply and we're seeing some price moves upward. The lowest listed on TCG Player at the moment is actually over $300 if you include shipping. And if we take a look on eBay, the lowest listed is about $280. And right after that, we're going up to the $300 point. So if you do want this box now and you want to purchase it online, I would say look around, look on eBay, see if you can maybe put in an offer and get it even lower than asking price. But I do think this booster box is a good buying opportunity right now. We've kind of eaten through a lot of that supply. And at this point, I think we have a lot of growth ahead of us. It's hard to say for sure where this booster box is going to go price-wise in the near future. But by the end of this year, we could see a $350 to $400 booster box. I don't think that's too out of the question. We do have the Pikachu EX Chase card in this set as well, which is already like a $350 card. And upon release, that card was actually over $400. So maybe we could see that card jump up to those all-time highs, and we could see this sealed product continue rising in price as well. Next, we have the Prismatic Evolutions Elite Trainer box. So this one's been talked about recently as well. We're up about 15% over the past month, and we've kind of broken over that $180 price point. Lowest listed on TCG Player is actually over $185. But if we take a look on eBay, our lowest listed, we're around that $150 to $160 range, and we have some at $170 as well. So again, the TCG Player chart's going up pretty fast for some of these products, but we do have some supply on the market as well in different marketplaces. So just make sure you shop around, make sure you're getting the best deals you can if you're looking to purchase these products. As for the Prismatic Elite Trainer box, we have 2,600 listed on TCG Player. We're selling over 1,000 a month, so not too bad. And yeah, the listings are going up fairly fast. Again, lowest listed is already in that $188 price point, and looks like soon we're going to be hitting $190 to $195 on TCG Player. So we'll see if those prices continue to hold or if we see more supply hit the market on TCG Player. But again, I feel like Prismatic is in a similar situation with Surging Sparks as to where a lot of the supply for this product has already come out. It's already been introduced to the market, and at this point, more and more is getting ripped. More collectors and investors are putting this away. Not much more supply is being introduced to the market. So we just have supply continuing to go down, demand either staying constant or going up as well as, that price kind of sets in and people start coming back to this product as a good investment. I think we're looking pretty good for Prismatic Evolutions. And if we take a look at the booster bundle, we're up about 7.8% over the past month, and we're sitting at about $97 on TCG Player. Lowest listed is about that $97 to $100 price point. And the thing about this booster bundle is it actually did spike all the way to $108, about $108 on TCG Player. But, I don't think that was an accurate reflection of the market price. I think there are a lot of fake sales still going on. If you look at the items sold here, we have a lot of sales in the $130 to $140 price range, which, in my opinion, those are fake sales. We have a lot of supply on TCG Player under that $100 point. So there's no reason for people to be buying this at like $130, $140, right? So I think this booster bundle still hasn't cracked at $100 just yet. And if you take a look at the sell-through rate on TCG Player, we have about 5,500 listed, and we're only selling about 1,000 per month. So not great sell-through. There is a ton of supply of these booster bundles at this moment. And, I think it's going to take some time for these booster bundle prices to go up significantly. I'm actually a bigger fan of the ETB than the booster bundle at these price points. But again, as long as the single pack price of Prismatic continues to go up and people are continuing to rip it on their rip and ships and live streams, we can see both products continue to move up over time steadily. And as for Ascended Heroes, we're kind of in a similar boat. Of course, with Ascended Heroes, we have much less supply on the market, but I do think there's going to be reprints coming soon for Ascended Heroes. We've heard some things on the market, and a lot of sellers that I know seem to be getting in Ascended ETBs fairly soon by the caseload. So I don't know if there's been a reprint recently or just more supply hitting the market, but I think Ascended Heroes is going to continue to stagnate. If we look over the past month, we're not seeing any growth. We're seeing a little bit of a decline actually. Over the past 3 months, we're still up from around that March timeframe where we were sitting at about $120. We have 935 listed on TCG Player and 1,700 selling per month. So numbers look pretty good, but again, this set is very new in its print cycle, and I think a lot of supply is going to hit the market fairly soon. Lowest listed on TCG Player is $180, and on eBay, we're about that $170 price point. So the game plan for Ascended is probably just to be patient and dollar cost average in over time. This is not something you want to buy cases and cases of right now. I would say just spread out your buys because you never know how much Pokemon is going to print of this set. A lot of people are already throwing in the towel saying this is not going to get the prismatic treatment and this is not going to get a lot of supply ever introduced to the market. But, what if it does, right? We don't have that information. We can't make that conclusion just yet. So if this does end up getting the prismatic treatment, we could see these ETBs easily in the $100 to $120 price range. And, again, that's why you want to be dollar cost averaging, right? If you could buy a few now when it's like $170, and then let's say it drops to 150, buy a few more, and then if once it gets to like 120, if it ever happens, that's when you kind of back up the truck on it and just buy as much as you can if you believe in the set long term. But at these high inflated prices, this early into the print cycle, you just don't want to take on that much risk. Again, I am in the boat that thinks prismatic is a better investment than Ascended at this point in time. We'll see where it goes. Time will tell. But as for the Ascended Heroes booster pack, this price chart on TCG Player is completely wrong. It says we're at about $16. There's plenty of supply listed under $14 on TCG Player. We actually have a ton, even one seller with 1,000 quantity, it looks like, at $13.99. So this booster pack looks like it came under $14 again. So just keep that in mind when you're pricing out, these ETBs and booster bundles if you are looking to purchase some. And next we have 151. These booster bundles have actually come down over the past month, or pretty stagnant over the past month. Over the past 3 months, they haven't seen much movement either. Pretty stagnant again. And we have about 4,800 listed on TCG Player and 420 selling per month. So not great sell-through rate. Again, I think there is a lot of supply of this booster bundle right now, and people don't really want to purchase it at these high prices. But interestingly enough, if we take a look at the pack price for 151, it's still in that $30 range, like $29 to $30, and those are the lowest listed on TCG Player as well. So really there isn't much of a premium on the booster bundle. And if you can find these booster bundles at like $175 to $180, I think it's actually a pretty good play at this moment because people are going to prefer the experience of having a booster bundle rather than just some loose packs that could have been weighed, could have been resealed, could have been tampered with. So always having the sealed product, in this day and age is definitely a premium. So if we continue to see the 151 pack prices go up over time and the booster bundles kind of staying stagnant like it has, I would say look into the booster bundle as well and see if you can make some plays there. Next, we have Black Bolt and White Flare. So these have been talked about a lot recently as well. Over the past month, the Black Bolt booster bundle is up 22%. And the supply and demand on TCG Player is actually pretty insane. So we only have 70 booster bundles listed on TCG Player, and we're selling 454 per month. And the lowest listed is about $89, and we're climbing up to over $90 fairly soon. So pretty crazy things happening with Black Bolt and White Flare. As for White Flare, we are sitting at about $81, up over 17% over the past month. And we have a bit more supply on TCG Player. We have 100 and a little bit less sold than Black Bolt. We have about 375. So the sell-through on White Flare is not as good, but the prices are still continuing to move upwards. So pretty interesting what's happening with these two right now. If we take a look at the Elite Trainer box, Black Bolt has gone absolutely crazy. Over the past month, the Black Bolt Elite Trainer box has gone up 34.6%. And latest sales on TCG Player are about 170 to 180. Pretty crazy stuff going on right now. If we take a look at the White Flare Elite Trainer box, this one is significantly less than the Black Bolt Elite Trainer box. The White Flare ETB has gone up about 17% over the past month, and market price is under 150 right now. We have 330 listed on TCG Player, and we're selling 300 per month. So the sell-through isn't as good as the Black Bolt ETB, and for some reason, the Black Bolt ETB seems to be more scarce. So pretty interesting stuff going on right now. Lowest listed Black Bolt ETB on TCG is over 180. Lowest listed White Flare is about 145. So there is a pretty significant price discrepancy here. Does that mean buy White Flare like crazy right now? I don't know, but it's pretty interesting what's going on nonetheless. For Black Bolt, I think at these prices at like 180, we're getting into that territory where this is the same price as like a Prismatic Elite Trainer box or like an Ascended Elite Trainer box. And, those are definitely better sets. I don't think you can argue that. The ripping experience might be just as good since there are so many IRs in this set and, so many different variations of different cards. I think that's part of the reason why these sets have gone up so much recently. At this point, I don't recommend buying the Black Bolt ETB. I think the right time to buy was like over a month ago. We see that at these higher prices, the volume is starting to slow down a little bit. We had no sales on June 17th on TCG Player, and we have no sales on June 19th so far, as opposed to White Flare, where we're consistently getting in those sales. Sales volumes kind of dipping off a little bit now that we're hitting like about 150 on TCG Player. So I would say these Elite Trainer boxes might be holds right now. The Black Bolt Elite Trainer box might actually be a sell right now. Especially if you can get close to market, if you can get like 165 to 175 net on this Elite Trainer box, I would make that sale and then put that money into other things. Maybe you put that money back into the booster bundles, which are extremely low supply right now. And again, these booster bundles don't have much of a premium in terms of like a sealed premium over the per pack price. So, taking into account those factors, I think the booster bundles might be a play right now. The Elite Trainer boxes, I would either hold or sell right now. Next, we have the Paldean Fates Elite Trainer box. Now, this one has gone up pretty crazy over the past year. And, even the past 3 to 6 months, we've seen big spikes on this Elite Trainer box. And early May, we were sitting at about 570. We saw sales around 550 on TCG Player. But over the past month, we are down 14%. And I kind of figured this was going to happen sooner or later. I felt like that $550 price point was just not sustainable at this point in time for Paldean Fates at least. And part of that reason was because Hidden Fates is actually around that same price point right now. And Hidden Fates has been out for way longer than Paldean Fates has. And there's much less supply on the market as well. Paldean Fates, we're coming down pretty significantly over the past month. We have about 77 listed on TCG Player and 43 selling per month. Lowest listed is about 460. And then pretty soon we go up to the $480, $500 price point. So I think Paldean Fates right now might actually be a good play. Again, we've already hit highs of about $500 to $550. And now that we're about like 460, 470, this might be a good time to start turning your head towards Paldean Fates and accumulating. The cards in this set are doing very exceptionally. The Bubble Mew is over $1,000 raw now. And the Charizard EX is also like $350, maybe even $400 raw. So, this is going to be a very desired set over time. We have, the Bubble Mew is a very iconic card at this point in time. So I do think this Paldean Fates Elite Trainer box is starting to look more and more like a good buy. And taking a look at some Mega Evolution era sets, Chaos Rising is not doing too well at this point in time. Over the past month, we're down about 9%. We have about 1,000 booster boxes listed on TCG Player and 2,400 selling over the past month. Lowest listed is about 235. So not doing too great. I think the Greninja from this set wasn't really carrying the set as a lot of people thought it would. So I just think this set needs a bit more time. I don't think it's that much better than Perfect Order, to be honest. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. That's why we're, selling down in the low 200s right now for this booster box. And, if this is something that you're trying to add to your collection or you just want to rip a booster box, I think you can easily find this booster box at around 210, 220 at like a local deal or maybe a cheap eBay listing. Compared to other booster boxes in the hobby, this is pretty affordable. Again, it is still significantly over MSRP. So we'll see where this one goes, but I don't expect any crazy price growth for this booster box anytime soon. I think that's just where we are in the market right now. A lot of the modern sealed product, especially the less desirable sets to open, are just typically stagnating. We're not seeing any crazy price growth for no reason. We're seeing a lot more rational price movement for a lot of these sealed products. So all in all, I think Chaos Rising is probably not the best buy right now. But in 6 to 12 months, that opinion could completely change. If we're still sitting like under $250 at that point in time, I'll probably start turning your head toward this set. As for Phantasmal Flames, this has gone crazy over the past 6 months to a year. We're up about 85% over the past 6 months. And if we take a look at the month chart, we're actually down 3%. So it looks like once we started hitting those $470 price points, we started coming down a little bit. And now we're probably just going to stagnate in that $440 to $450 price range for a bit. We have about 640 listed on TCG Player, selling 180 per day, and lowest listed is about that $450, $460 price point. So is this a good buy right now? Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I think that Mega Charizard EX hype is kind of fading off a little bit. I think it'll kind of carry us into the 30th anniversary where, it's still looked at as like one of the biggest chase cards out, right? Along with the Pikachu EX and Mega Gengar EX from Ascended. But once we kind of get into that 30th anniversary hype phase, I think the hype on this set will slowly fade out. So maybe we could see this set get back down to like $400, $420 on TCG Player. So buying this set at $450, honestly not a great move right now in my opinion, which brings us to the Mega Evolution base set booster box. Right now, we're down about 10.5% over the past month, sitting at about $307 on TCG Player. We have only 90 listed on TCG Player, and we're selling about 80 per month. And lowest listed is about $307, and then we go up to $315, $320 pretty quickly. And right now, I actually do think Mega Evolution is a good play. And there's a few reasons why. First of all, it's already kind of had a correction over the past month, right? We were all the way up at about $340, $345 in late May. And then now we're pretty much all the way back down to like $300 to $310. So over a 10% correction. And if we take a look at the loose pack price for this set, TCG Player says about $7.60, but lowest listed is actually about $8.33. So if we do some math real quick and do $8.33 times 36 packs in a booster box, we're already sitting at about $300. So that means pack price alone, this booster box is giving us $300 worth of value. And don't forget that this booster box also has a box topper, this cute Bulbasaur, which honestly, I'm a huge fan of this art and color scheme. I don't think we see a lot of cards like this. So, I was a big fan of this art since I first saw it. But yeah, that's just my personal opinion. This card is sitting at about $24 on TCG Player. And if we take a look at lowest listed near min is about $22.50. We have about $730 listed on TCG, and we're selling about $717 per month. So this card adds on another like $20 to the value of the booster box. And now we have $300 worth of packs and another $20 to $25 card. The contents of this box alone already put it at about $320, right? And that's not even including any kind of like sealed premium for actually having the sealed booster box. So this is probably a good play right now. If you do have the money to spend, I'd probably stack up some Mega Evolution booster boxes right now. This is also fairly old at this point, fairly old in terms of like it's over like 9 months old. We probably won't see that many reprints moving forward. I think we might have already had a booster box reprint or just some kind of supply introduced to the market recently. But, being that this is the first set of Mega Evolution and there's so much else they need to print, right? Phantasmal, Ascended, 30th anniversary, obviously, Rayquaza set coming up soon. I think there is a chance that, they kind of just halt the printing on Mega Evolution and focus on some of those other sets. So this is starting to look like more and more of a good buying opportunity right now. And yeah, I would just recommend you keep your eyes peeled on this one. And that brings us to Sword and Shield era booster boxes. There's really not much movement going on right now for Sword and Shield era, which is pretty unfortunate. I know a lot of people who invest in Pokemon have pretty big positions in Sword and Shield. But the fact of the matter is people are just not opening these sets right now. And, partly because demand is just so hard to predict, right? A few years ago, we were talking about Sword and Shield is going to go down as the greatest era ever in Pokemon, right? And then once Scarlet Violet came out, that was the same sentiment with Scarlet Violet. And now it seems like people are saying the same thing about Mega Evolution. So seems like as time goes on, we just keep getting better and better sets. And some of the older sets kind of just fade into the abyss, right? Like Fusion Strike, for example. I mean, TCG Player says it's $1,100 right now. But to be honest, no one is buying this box at $1,100. We have a bunch of listings now back in the $1,000 range. Actually like a ton on TCG Player under $1,100. And as you can see by the chart, the volume is just so weak on this set. We have 67 listed on TCG Player right now and only 15 selling per month. So not great sell-through rate on this. This set is also notorious for its hard pull rates. So I think that's probably part of the reason why people are just not able to justify buying this box for $1,000 right now. And, over the past 6 months, we're actually up 31%. But the thing is, we've actually already been at this price point back in September. The chart says about $1,030 back in September, October. We're at that price point right now. So over the past month, this box hasn't done squat, and it's pretty unfortunate, but that's just the way the dice rolls right now. And similarly with Lost Origin, back in September, October, we were actually even a bit higher than we are right now. This box, says about $770 on TCG Player. Lowest listed is closer to that $750, $760 price range. And we see similar sell-through numbers for this box as we do with the Fusion Strike booster box. We have 95 Lost Origin booster boxes listed on TCG and only 27 selling per month. So again, not much interest coming into the Sword and Shield era right now. Brilliant Stars has been kind of a shining star in the Sword and Shield era stagnation period. Brilliant Stars is actually up 3% over the past month. And, even just at the past 3-month chart, looks pretty good. Back in September, we were actually at about $550. And now we're sitting comfortably about $630 to $650. Similar sell-through rate, pretty low, beefy supply, and relatively low sell-through numbers. Lowest listed on TCG Player is about $650. So Brilliant Stars is actually doing pretty well. And I think it's the one diamond in the rough for the Sword and Shield era at this point. Actually, I take that back since Silver Tempest also exists. This booster box is about $560 right now, and we're up about 7.7% over the past month. So actually not too bad for Silver Tempest. And surprisingly, Silver Tempest doesn't have that much supply listed on TCG Player. We're sitting at about 59 quantity on TCG Player and 35 selling per month. So not bad at all. Lowest listed on TCG Player is about $550. So this box is comfortably at that $550 price point right now. And, I think a lot of this price move is justified for this set because we see that Lugia V exploding in price. I think that card has kind of had like a resurgence or something recently because a lot of people, even people who might not have even opened Sword and Shield, they're looking for that card raw or in a PSA 10. So, maybe it's just because it's such an iconic Pokemon, or people just fell in love with the artwork, or whatever the case may be. That card is about the same price as this booster box right now in a raw version. So I think this booster box price is justified. And, Brilliant Stars and Silver Tempest, I think, have defied expectations, at least regarding other Sword and Shield sets. So it's good to see that not everything is stagnant. There are some moves upward, but for the most part, Sword and Shield is not doing great. And that brings us to Evolving Skies. This one's really painful to talk about, guys. I'm not even going to lie. We have barely any sales volume on TCG Player over the past month. If we take a look at the past few sales, we're actually down in the $2,600 range. We had one on the 18th, one on the 17th. And before that, the last sale we had on TCG Player for an English booster box was on the 10th. So we're really not seeing much sales volume at all on this box. And, again, this is super painful for me to see since I do have 2 Evolving Skies booster boxes. But this box is already back down below $2,500. We have a 100% feedback seller listing it at $2,450 plus $5 shipping. So pretty scary stuff. We just saw the trailer for the Delta Rain set that's going to be released in July. So hopefully some of that Rayquaza hype kind of pulls up Evolving Skies as well. I do think for the long term, Evolving Skies is still a great hold. $10,000 booster box. There were a lot of conversations about this being a $10,000 booster box, like team up within the next few years. Honestly, I don't see 10,000 happening anytime soon, especially if this box can barely go up during the 30th anniversary amidst all this hype. But, maybe within the next 3 to 4 years, we do see this box hit like 5,000, 6,000. I think that's pretty reasonable. But yeah, $10,000 for this booster box, I just don't see it happening anytime soon. I think that's going to take at least 5 to 10 years on this booster box. But, hopefully I'm proven wrong. Again, that would be a great, pleasant surprise since I do have a decent position of Evolving Skies. And just to end off with a little nugget, I think if you do want some Evolving Skies exposure, but the booster box just isn't cutting it right now because it's just too expensive and there's just not a lot of sales volume and liquidity right now, I would look into the Elite Trainer boxes for Evolving Skies. There's actually 2 variants of this Elite Trainer box. We have the Glaceon, Vaporeon, Sylveon, Espeon, and we have the Flareon, Jolteon, Umbreon, and Leafeon. So 2 different variants. Both look pretty cool. It's a black Elite Trainer box with evolutions pictured on the front. So pretty cool Elite Trainer boxes. And for the cheaper version, we have listings at about $520 on TCG Player. And, that's 1/5 of the booster box price. So I do think there's some value here and people are not paying attention right now. For the more expensive Elite Trainer box, we have listings at about maybe $550, honestly, maybe $600 for the more expensive one. The one with Umbreon obviously is going to be more expensive. But yeah, pretty low supply for both of these on TCG Player right now. I think typically we should see maybe a 4-to-1 ratio for the booster box to the Elite Trainer box. In the Scarlet and Violet era, we've seen actually closer to a 3-to-1 ratio because there is an extra pack in every Elite Trainer box in the Scarlet and Violet era. And we also do have a promo, right, which the Sword and Shield era doesn't really have. But, a 5-to-1 ratio is pretty high. And that's why I think these Elite Trainer boxes have some room to go up. So yeah, those are my thoughts, guys. Hope you guys got some value out of this video. And if you did, please drop a like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments, what are your picks at this moment? What do you think are some good plays regarding sealed product? It's been a pretty cold market for sealed product recently within the past 3 months or so. But, there still have been some bright spots and some good plays and some good money to be made. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And thank you for watching, guys. Catch you next time. Peace.